In a bold move that has sent shockwaves across the nation, the newly elected Labour Party has unveiled a sweeping initiative as the Citizens Directive. This new set of rules will require all UK citizens to adhere to stringent guidelines starting this November. Chief political reporter Jim Froggatt sat down with Labour's head of UK development, Sandy Smith-Shah, to discuss the implications of this directive. Since deservedly coming into power, we have noticed a huge black hole when it comes to citizens' perceived well-being, and the previous government is 100% to blame for this. That is an indisputable fact, my friend, Sandy declared, her tone both assertive and unwavering. Jim, ever the inquisitive reporter, leaned in. How will it work? He asked, eager to understand the finer details. I'm glad you asked, Sandy replied, her confidence palpable. All UK citizens, without exception, will be required to agree to and adhere to a set of rules laid down by the government. These rules will consist of the following: to hereby promise faithfully to support the government's rulings, unquestionably, regardless of any detriment to the citizens that may or may not be advertently or inadvertently caused by said government. Jim raised an eyebrow. You mean citizens must support government decisions, even if they believe those decisions are harmful? Exactly, Sandy exclaimed, as if this was the most reasonable proposition in the world. Citizens must promise faithfully not to be subordinate. For example, they must not go on demonstrations in any fashion peacefully or aggressively, whether in person or online. If they do so, they may be imprisoned immediately without trial until further notice as deemed necessary by the UK government. Jim's jaw dropped. That's quite a heavy-handed approach. And what about the elderly? Sandy smirked, sensing an opportunity to elaborate. Ah, yes. If you are elderly, you must promise faithfully not to overuse electricity in the winter months. Likewise, with gas, if you get cold, you can always slip on an extra jumper or two or exercise to keep warm. How old do you consider someone to be in the elderly bracket? Jim probed, genuinely curious. Another great question, Sandy answered, her eyes twinkling with mischief. We consider elderly to be between the ages of 70 to 110. Wow, exclaimed Jim, momentarily lost for words. Sandy's laughter rang out, echoing through the studio. As Sandy continued chuckling uncontrollably, Jim noticed that she would pass out from laughter, the absurdity of it all. We have bigger fish to fry than the old uns, though, Sandy asked, from her eyes. I couldn't help but interject. You don't seem dismissive of the elderly if I can be candid. Not at all, Sandy replied, her tone now serious. It's all about priorities and black holes. The government has to focus on pressing issues, and frankly, the elderly are not our top concern right now. The interview took an unexpected turn when a local activist, Clara Watson, barged into the studio. Excuse me, but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation, she said, her voice firm. This Citizens Directive is a blatant violation of human rights. Sandy rolled her eyes. And who are you to decide what's right or wrong? You're just one voice among many. Clara, undeterred, responded, I'm a representative of the Citizens for Freedom Alliance, and we're not going to sit idly by while our rights are stripped away. People deserve to voice their opinions without the threat of imprisonment. Jim, sensing the tension, asked, What do you plan to do about it? Clara replied passionately, We're organizing peaceful protests, and we'll take this to the courts if necessary. This directive is not only impractical, but also dangerous. As the interview progressed, the phone lines lit up with viewers eager to share their opinions. One caller, Bill from Manchester, said, I think this is outrageous. We're not living in a dictatorship. What's next? Mandatory smiles. Another caller, Judith from Liverpool, chimed in, I'm 72, and I refuse to be told how to live my life. I'll use my heating if I want to, sod the expense. Back in the studio, Sandy tried to maintain her composure amidst the chaos. Look, the government is simply trying to create a more efficient society. We have to make sacrifices for the greater good. Jim countered, but at what cost, Sandy? This directive seems to prioritize control over the well-being of citizens. Sandy huffed. Again, it's about priorities and addressing the black holes in our society. As the segment concluded, viewers were left with more questions than answers. The Citizens Directive, designed to tighten government control, has ignited a firestorm of controversy across the nation. Citizens are now left to ponder whether they are willing to comply with an initiative that many perceive as an infringement on their rights. With protests planned and public sentiment on the rise against the directive, it's clear that the Labour Party's bold move may have opened a Pandora's box of dissent that could reshape the political landscape in the UK. As Jim signed off, he remarked, "In a world where citizens are expected to comply without question, it seems the only certainty is that the debates over freedom and government control far from over."